Today you're going to hear from Brock Sabo. Brock is the co-founder of Awakenings Music Festival. That is a local Christian music festival here in the Pacific Northwest. He's also a realtor. Most important, he's a family man. And you're going to hear his story of addiction and recovery in order to be the best family man that he can possibly be. I hope you enjoy his hero's journey.
What's going on, everyone? We would like to invite you to the Awakening Festival on the 28th of April, 2023. It's going to be an amazing time of worship. I believe God wants to awaken the Northwest area. We have been asleep for too long. Ephesians 5 says, "Wake up, sleeper, rise from the dead, and Christ will shine on you." Join us for the Awakening Festival as we worship the Lord and ask Him to awaken the Pacific Northwest area and to see His kingdom come. We'll see you there. Grace and peace.
Brock, you are a man of many hats, my friend.
Yeah.
I know you from Awakenings. I know you as a bartender. I know you at 12 Steps. And I'd like to dive right in. Like, your heart for Christ, I think, shows a lot in Awakenings. What is your vision for Awakenings, and what is it?
Wow. Well, thanks for having me here, for one. And two, Awakenings, it's awakening of our region as we look around the world today and see the darkness that's crumbling outside of the walls of our homes and in our kids' schools, and the anxieties, the fears that are coming up in the world today. It's been a passion of mine to work in the music industry, under secular music for 10, 12 years. I've been doing it for quite some time, helping other people make big things happen. And it was on my heart during COVID that there's no Christian music festivals of any sort if you look at a map, it's from like Minnesota to Texas at a diagonal, and anything on the West Coast, there's one Christian music festival. And to me, worship is a long form of prayer. It's something that I do as I drive, I do as I work out, I listen to worship, as much as I can, and it fills me. And I just felt that this area and the region, with the spiritual attack that we're under, needed a Christian music festival. And went to a partner of mine that's been in the business for 25 years, and he's not a Christian, but I pitched him my heart on what this was, and he sees the vision. He's a businessman, he understands concerts and festivals, but he joined forces with me, and we put this first one on last year.
Yeah, I was about to say, it's not a concept, you did it.
Yeah.
And what was the first show like?
Well, it was really tough because it was post-pandemic. We had a lot of hurdles to jump over. All the restrictions in our state that were really heavy on public gatherings and such like that. But we waited it out, and God willing, all the restrictions were lifted by the time our concert came, and it was an amazing day. I mean, I had all my friends there, right, that were helping us with the recording, the audio, the video, putting it together, the production. It just turned out to be a great day.
I did. I attended,
Yeah.
and it was like nothing else I'd ever experienced. I've been to music festivals before. I'm not a huge live music fan because of the energy that I normally feel. And I have to say that I took my kids with me.
Yeah.
I took my wife with me.
Yeah.
And what I felt was the environment was a place where I could pray, I could worship. I saw so many friends, and I felt that I was in the right space for what I wanted to do, which was love God, love Jesus.
Yeah.
And it was a very safe place to be.
Yeah. So my vision of it is to create an environment, just like you spoke, for your kids' friends, for your family, just anybody that they don't even have to be Christian, right? Music's an easy way to a heart, of somebody. And if Chris likes Lecrae, so to speak, of the guy last year we had for a headliner. But Chris likes Lecrae, and his friend's not a Christian, and says, "You should come see this, rap artist. He's amazing." Doesn't even have to really say it's a Christian music festival, but bring him into the room, and it's an experience that, especially in our region, I feel like people are hungry for Jesus here. After talking to some of the artists that travel around the world, play festivals all the time, Christian festivals, and they said, there was 1,000 people in the room at the time. I mean, it was a hockey arena. It was a big space. Just hearing what the artist said about how they've been to 1,000 of these shows, and a lot of times people are just there. I'm just at a concert, I'm just hanging out. But they felt the energy there. They felt the hunger for what God was bringing in this area. So
I almost want to say it's unexpected, and that's a great transition point. Like, for you, Brock, your life, I feel like you create gathering places. And it's for the unexpected experience of Christ invading somebody's life. People who do know you, they know you for awakenings, they know you as a bartender, they know you in your professional life as a realtor. But all of those things, when I think of you, you're very loving in how you wait for people to show up.
Yeah.
And then when they're ready, you have the conversation.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about why you are a bartender?
Well, it's fun, yeah.
Well, that's for sure. But there's a little more to it. Well, actually, there's a lot more for it.
There's a lot more to it.
It's very personal for you.
It is, and it may not be the perfect profession for me because I'm in recovery, but I feel very confident in, that I'm not going to drink today. I feel very confident I'm not going to use drugs today, and I am active in my 12-step program in AA. I'm very active in church life, which I feel service in anything that we do draws us to people and draws us to God. And the bartender thing for me, I've been in restaurants for 20 plus years, starting as a dishwasher when I was 15 years old. I remember the first time I showed up there, just scared. And I worked my way up and been manager, waiter, dishwasher, cook. I've done everything in a restaurant, and that was my life. But that was also my demise, because it was a scene that I could drink, I could party. I knew all the local bartenders and people that bars brought, and it turned into a life of destruction for me. I had 6 dads growing up that were all alcoholics, and that was just, I was destined for for that in a sense, right? That was my life, and I just saw like alcohol and drugs were just always in our home, and there was no way out of it for me. I just started at a young age and just kept going at that. Today as a bartender, I enjoy the people. Like you said, I'm a real estate broker, so I feel like it's a good way to connect with people. The specific spot that I work is in a location where there's a lot of rental properties, so I hear people talking about homes all the time, and it's good for business that way, to build relationships. But the first time I tell somebody, and they ask me, what does this drink taste like? And I'm like, I haven't drank in 12 years. They kind of step back and they're like, what? That's like saying that you cook food and don't eat it, right? Same thing. And, it's led to conversations at the bar that most recently I've had one of my customers come and be baptized at church, which was totally amazing. And just hearing his story, last Sunday at church, came up to me and just said, since the first time I met you at the bar and you told me you didn't drink and that you went to church and you believed in God and all this stuff, it really changed me inside. And it's led him on this path to where now, months and months later, he got baptized. He's has a new relationship with Christ. I believe he still drinks. I don't think that was an issue for him, but he has doors that have been opened for him for his future and business, and he just passed a paramedic exam. Like, all these things are just, as God does for us, as we change our mindset to not believe what's going on in the world, but follow His word, how the doors open for us. So.
You used the phrase darkness and how lonely.
Yeah.
And I think that a bar or even a music venue can be very lonely places. They can be a gathering place for folks who are desperate for connection for love. And at least in the spiritual realm, you hear that something that is addictive is less than God, but you put it in the place of God, so you seek it and you can never fulfill it.
Yeah.
And I love that you try and to connect people with something greater.
Yeah.
Whether you take them to a meeting, which is one of my favorite stories, of you meeting somebody at the bar, they're desperate for something.
Yeah.
And I think you've said it to me. It's like, Chris, if it's not a problem, it's not a problem.
Yeah.
That's why you work at a bar. But if it is a problem and you do see somebody who is desperate for something greater, something more, you're available.
Always. Yeah. I mean, that's the blessing of being sober and continuing to be sober. At a meeting this morning, and guys talking about how they've been sober for 40 years and they still go to a meeting every day or often, and how that when they cut that back, it gives them the opportunity to let the world in for their experience and the potential of taking a drink. I mean, we talked about there's two guys, that one had 30 years, one had 40 years, that had gone back out because the reason, I'm not sure if it was being cut back from meetings, what was going on in life, maybe their wife died, whatever the situation might be. But when we're in recovery, it's important that we stay connected. There was a time in my recovery that I didn't walk away, but I stopped going to meetings. I stopped, serving at church. I stopped talking to the people that were in my life that were, lifting me up. And I slipped, I had a stick in my eye the size of a tree, and I couldn't see past what was going on in my life. And it caused a lot of damage to my family, to people around me. And the moment that I was able to pull that stick out and see that I was the one causing those problems and I was the one, hurting people, we can get humble and we recognize and we can seek God to help us with those situations. So.
When I hear you say that, I hear, this thing happened, but on the other side of that, it is a message of hope. Like, when you talk about addiction taking up so much space in somebody's life, and then you start to pull that addiction back, they're available for love, for relationships. So on the other side of pulling the stick out of your eye, what has your life become since the stumble?
Well, most importantly, I got on my knees and I repented the things that I'd done, right? It's important for that we are open and honest with the people around us. It took a little time to do that with the people that are close to me because of shame and guilt and fear. But when I was able to do that, things began to move in my life. I think in addiction or anything that we suck our life into, and addiction could be anything. It could be food, it could be porn, it could be drugs, alcohol, it could be social media. Like, there's so much to be addicted to. Games, like.
Yeah, you and Dante have it both right. The 7 deadly sins is a great way to do the analysis. Is it power? I always think it's like the 12-step ones, like overeating, porn, alcohol. Those are the easy ones.
Yeah.
I think the the worldly subversion of power, money, prestige, those addictions that take up our life, and we don't realize it.
Yeah.
I think those are incredibly powerful too.
Yeah, it's our human nature to be selfish and want more and worry about us and let us be the ones driving the wheel in our lives. But when we can get past, it took a while for me to understand that I needed God, right? It took a DUI and then me just still brushing it off like it was no big deal, right? I just didn't want to deal with the problem I had just caused. I felt like drugs and getting a bottle of wine or whatever it might be would be easier to numb what was going on inside of me. It didn't work, obviously. It led me to the path of either get sober or get out. It was my ultimatum with my girlfriend at the time. I was helping her raise 4 kids, and I had one of my own that I had no right being around in that state of mind. And it took just one moment of hearing something speak to me, which was my wife's 4-year-old at the time had gotten in trouble, and I put him in his room, and he was just laying in there, and I could hear him singing, I pray to God, and we'd never gone to church as a family, and I didn't know of them going to church before when they were younger. I mean, he was 4 years old, so he didn't have much experience with church, and I was like listening through the door, and I opened the door, and I said, you pray to God? And he sits up and he looks at me and said, if you don't pray to God, you won't go to heaven. And like, to me, that was just like, babe, you're right, we need to find a church. It was kind of like one of those God shots of like, God was speaking to me through this young boy of saying like, Brock, you need help now. And I was ready for that, I think, and we went to a church, and I grabbed the pastor unknowing who he was and told him my major issue of drugs and alcohol, prayed for us, and at that moment I had that weight lift off my shoulders. I felt something relieve in my life and leave me, and I've been sober since then. So,
Brock, when you describe what I would say rock bottom, like,
yeah,
people, I feel like in the world, they hear rock bottom and they're like, oh my God, like that's awful, like it as if that's the rest of your life.
They have a vision of it, right? The guy in the ditch with a brown bottle and no home and all that stuff. But
and it could very well be true too.
Yeah.
But on the other side of rock bottom, like in the world, that's who you are forever. Once you are your worst mistake.
Yeah.
But in the kingdom, that's the beginning.
Yeah.
The beginning starts a lot with pain. And so on the other side of that, I actually know you as one of the richest people I've ever met. Mm-hmm. And I always see that through service. Like another hat that you wear is service at Evergreen Lights. And I find it interesting because you are stretched for time to begin with.
Sure.
But you show up at this place where folks have no idea of the encounter they're about to have. Mm-hmm. Can you talk a little bit about what Evergreen Lights means to you?
Sure. It means a lot more to me today than it did, in years past, right? I've always been a part of helping set up. I mean, I'm just a small part of the whole thing.
What is Evergreen Lights?
So Evergreen Lights is a community event that Evergreen Church puts on every year. They decorate their building and the grounds with thousands of Christmas lights. And being from a production world, like through music and anything like that, I mean, this is like not just the plug in your. This is better than Clark Griswold type of thing, right? He was just plugging in lights, and this is like, I mean, there's power boxes and miles of cable and programming and hours and hours and hours that go into this thing, and it's all free for the community. It's all given by the generous people of the church. The time, the money, everything that's put into it is God's, and
What's the intent, in your opinion, of Evergreen Lights? Why? I mean, why even do that?
Yeah, because there's hundreds of churches probably in Bothell. 50 in the city of Bothell. There's probably at least 50 churches, I would imagine, and the Pastor Phil at Evergreen Church has just had a heart for the community, and I think his heart overflows to the people that come to the church and the congregation, and what that does is it fills them up and it overflows and continues that way. I think God works in an overflow, right? We're taught the word from Phil, fills us. We are able to speak the word or acts of service, and that flows to the next guy who wants to join in, and then the community, and it just reaches a ton of people. I think its intention is to serve the community. One, I mean, it's beautiful. It's Christmas. Be joyful and giving and loving to our community. I think, in the past years, things have shifted a little bit to where we want to offer a little more than we have in the past. I think more of a hope. After COVID, so many people just isolated and got lost, and whether it was financially, emotionally, physically, through addiction, anything. I think we came out of that just almost like new babies, looking into the world, right? And in the last couple of years, we opened our doors, which they've never done before, and it just led to Cultures, which is an amazing spot to go have coffee in the mornings. They're open, and every day.
So Cultures is
It's a coffee shop inside the church in Evergreen, and it's just an amazing spot. It's quiet, it's clean, it's not scary, and we were able to open the doors for people to come in and see what our church building's like.
When I saw Evergreen Lights this year, this is an outsider's perspective.
Yeah.
I always feel like Pastor Phil, Evergreen, and the people that serve at the church, the philosophy is give them God's love, which is always more than what you would expect.
Yeah.
So from the beginning, when folks walk in, they get cookies, they have this amazing show, it's free, it's for your kids, and so they've already met this desire for folks to be taken care of.
Yeah.
But then this year, the cast of characters that Phil brought in, and I'll start with you. I think you stopped working at the bar that month, and he brought you on. You slowed everything down otherwise, and I always consider you to be the unsuspecting evangelist. Nobody sees you coming, but you're the person behind the bar having a conversation. You're the person setting up the lights. You're the person serving. But at this moment, you're there to have a conversation. You're always available to invite somebody to a meeting. You've invited me to a meeting, and I know folks appreciate that. But you were just one person.
Yeah.
There was the rest of the band that came from India, and they are a fantastic worship band.
Yeah.
He brought Ilya from Israel to do setup.
It was so cool to have those cultures and just outsiders come in and help us.
Each of them are heavyweights. I would describe them. You
absolutely.
And the rest of them, and all of the volunteers were heavyweights. And the beauty is Evergreen wasn't out there promoting, I'm bringing all these people in. They just brought these folks in. They put on a great show, and they loved the community. And I think that's God's love, and you participated in that.
Yeah.
What were the miracles that you saw in serving this past season?
Well, first of all, we had a great turnout of volunteers. I think in the month of December in Seattle, it's really hard to get people motivated to go stand outside when it's freezing cold, raining most of the time. To be cheerful and joyful and want to show up to serve cookies and say hi to people and be happy. This year was not like that. It was. I'm not going to even begin to take the credit for it, because there was a huge team of people behind me. I feel from a standpoint of Evergreen Church it was smart to bring in these people to relieve the pressures of so much on your plate already from just being as a job, having a job at a church and working everything that you do every day already, plus this on top of that. It was smart to bring in myself and Ilya and the extra band members and just took a lot of stress off of people, and you could really see that this year too. Being there every single night it was a lot of fun. It was something I looked forward to. I mean, even if it rained or we had a lot of snow this year, which was kind of fun. It was cold. I just saw the joy in the people that served, which overflowed into our community. Just reading, some, Facebook posts or something that, were brought to my attention about how, Evergreen had overdid themselves this year. I've been having a hard time, in a divorce or whatever the situation was, but I brought my kids and we just ran around. We got free cookies. Thank you so much, Evergreen. I mean, it was just amazing to hear those stories from people and then them publicly announcing that, we're here for hope, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, that's why we're doing what we do. And the hope is in Jesus. And this year we were able to open the doors to give everybody, I think we had 5,665 people or something like that, come inside and listen to the word that Phil gave, plus 30 minutes of amazing music from people from India, people from Tanzania, and then Mumbai, and just our local worship too. So it was awesome.
In your service, so I think of you as a person who serves, and you...
Yeah.
I'll put it this way. When you describe your childhood, you were missing somebody to be there and to love you.
Yeah.
Like you were missing a father figure.
Yeah.
And I always see you as a father figure who is available and ready to listen. You're just there for people.
Yeah.
How did you get there?
Well, I think, when I finally realized I had an issue with alcohol and drugs, the first thing that I did, when you get into treatment, I was fully compliant. I wanted to be there. It's kind of a discovery of who you are. It gets your mind clear for 30 days while you're there, and you learn that you can be somebody without drugs and alcohol. I mean, it's a discovery state. And then the recovery and the service came when I went to my first AA meeting. It was a group of people. I still go there every, 3 times a week, the same group after 12 years. But I got a coffee position to make coffee. Gets me out of myself. I have to be accountable because AA people without coffee is like, going into a battlefield. And so it held me accountable to be there. I got a sponsor. I did all the steps that were suggested for me to do. And I was ready for that. And service just turned into, I think when we get out of ourselves and get out of the way of our life that we want it to be like, it just bleeds to other people, right? And we're able to be accessible to helping others. I never I've learned to not chase people, and I can't chase a person that doesn't want to get sober, right? For me, they have to want to do it for themselves.
You had a great phrase for me not too long ago. You're like, oh, Chris, that person, they just need a little more pain in their life.
Yeah. It's so true. I heard recently, and I've heard it before, but I heard it recently. It's kind of like, our life's like a skyscraper, and we're on an elevator, and we can choose where to get off on this journey. And a lot of us, being addicts and alcoholics, choose the bottom floor and then have to work our way back up. Not everybody has to be there, right? We can't control, like I couldn't control my drinking. I couldn't control my drug use. I thought I could. I thought, I still go to work every day, struggling, hungover, and needing a line of cocaine to get through it, but I still went every day, and I went paycheck to paycheck. It was a struggle. It was a hustle, and it wasn't a life that was worth living for me. I was trying to help raise 5 kids. I couldn't imagine what my life would be like today if I was still using drugs and alcohol. I mean, well, for one, my wife wouldn't be with me, and that would be, I'd be on my own somewhere in misery.
The blessings you have in your life, like we talked quite a bit about the pain.
Yeah.
But sometimes the blessings are only like really clear. The clarity comes in looking in the rear view after you've gotten some miles.
Yeah.
When you look back on your life, just sitting here now, the feeling that you have as you look back on all the gifts you've been given in sobriety, what does that look and what does it feel like?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I never ever want to close the door on the pain. I want to remember that. It's kind of like turning on a hot oven and sticking your hand on it and scorching your hand. Like, you probably won't do that again if you have the opportunity to, because you know what the pain's going to be like. In 12 years, which is just a blink of the eye, I mean, I look back and 12 years has gone by so quickly. I was able to maintain a job, bought a house, got married, had a beautiful girl who's never seen me drink or do drugs in her life, right? That's a blessing to me. She already at 8 years old asks me, why don't you drink alcohol? And I have just a simple conversation. It's not good for daddy. And it's not good for you. I always throw that in there too. It's not going to be good for you, okay? But I would not have these things at all if I was still using drugs or alcohol. And if I didn't come to terms that God is my Father and He leads my every step. I'm not perfect by any means. I don't ever think that. My ego's still inflated at times. But as long as I'm surrounding myself with guys like you and the people that I've now call my friends, and I think my life's going to be okay.
You mentioned earlier things that get identified in your life that are difficult, that are struggles.
Yeah.
And I think one of the blessings that we get in our life is our life's work. Like, people consider them problems, but it's an opportunity to grow, to love, to invest in other people. And for you, it's looked like a lot of service and a lot of change.
Yeah.
If you were going to give a last message of hope, something that you would want everybody to know, what would it be?
That you don't always have to cause pain in your life, like get down to that bottom level in your life to figure it out. I think there's a lot of questions that people ask themselves, am I really an alcoholic, or am I really a porn addict, or am I really this or that? And I think if you're asking yourself those questions, you might want to look closer and stop looking out the window and start looking in a mirror at yourself. And that, I won't ever push AA, and I try not to be that like pusher of that, of these things that helped me. When people see and realize the changes in my life, I offer those to them. And if I know somebody's really hurting, you know, I definitely come forward and say, maybe we should go to a meeting or something like that, or go to church, or you know, maybe you need some hope in your life. You know, let's go have coffee. And but I think ultimately people need to make that choice and see their own pain, so they can move forward in life. Like you said, I had a lot of shame for the things that I've done in my past, but I don't today, as I wake up every morning, I don't wake up and be like, oh, Brock, you're an ex-drug addict, you know, here you go, get on your day. I don't say that to myself anymore. I say, you know, God, how can I be used in your kingdom to maybe make a difference in somebody's life? I wake up and wonder who I'm going to meet and connect with to grow more awareness of Awakening Music Festival. Who am I going to meet today that I could potentially help them and guide their family into, you know, buying a home and a relationship that could last for a long time. You know, we can't be defined by the mistakes we've made. We define ourselves by how we picked up our boots and put them back on and moved forward and changed from the pain that we caused.
That's exactly what when you say pull yourself up and do hard work, on the other side of your work that you have in your life is everything that is good. Like, I look at you now and I see a husband that you would have never imagined being, a dad that you would have never imagined being, a music festival promoter that you would have never imagined being. But it was on the other side of obedience to God and hard work and service. And it doesn't sound great to a lot of people, but
no, it's hard work. I mean, there's days I don't want to go to a meeting. There's days that I don't want to be, you know, I wake up and snap at my wife, you know, because I'm grumpy or like I'm irritable and my ego's blown up. There's days that I don't want to be patient with my kids. I mean, there's all those days. I'm human, you know. I think that's just the nature of us, is to do things the way we choose to do them and not follow what God wants us to do. When it's taken me 12 years to get to the mindset of like, I'm just going to let God take this from me and allow that peace, because there's a peace in that, right? I feel my life is so much more peaceful today amongst the chaos that's going on in it, you know, being pulled left and right in work and my relationship, and, you know, our kids are, you know, struggling with them. Like, I honestly lay it all on a plate for God to take. And it's taken a long time to get to that point where, you know, I don't want to be the guy that always says like, oh, God will take care of this. And I do say that, don't get me wrong, but I don't want it to ever be just so easily said from my mouth that it doesn't mean anything, right? I want it to actually mean like, God, you are going to take care of this, and have that passion for it.
Well, I think your message probably looks a lot like, on the other side of the hard work that God asks you to do every day is love. Like, you have some of the greatest love anybody could ever ask for. So with that, when is Awakenings and how can they find it?
Awakening Music Festival is April 28th, 2023, this year. It's going to be at the Shower Center in Kent again, and you can find it at awakeningnw.com. You can follow us on Instagram at Awakening Music Festival, Facebook, same, and we're excited.
I'm excited.
I'm so excited.
And I cannot wait to see you again soon. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, man. Thank you.